Welcome back to Full Force. We haven't done an episode in a little while. We've ended Kaladesh and the cube was over, so there wasn't a whole lot going on Magic Online. But we've moved on from Vintage Cube, where there's a lot of power cards, and now we're into Legacy Cube. And the deck that we have today is something that's a little bit of a stipulation draft almost. It's a bit out of my wheelhouse. We are doing 5-color Planeswalkers. So I'm going to be trying to pick up as many Planeswalkers as possible. I'm going to look for cards like Oath of Nissa to fix my mana for all the Planeswalkers we're getting, and we're going to need to pick a lot of dual lands. This is not a good dual land because it comes into play tapped, it's not fetchable, it's not great, it's also not in the main colors I think that I'll want to be, but I will take Liliana. I feel like white I don't want as much of. I feel like I'm going to splash white and red and be mostly green, blue, black. That would be my guess. I'm taking the Liliana because it's just the most powerful Planeswalker, and we'll go from there and hope that it works out. This should be a very strange and interesting draft, I think. Well, it'll teach us to really value picks of land, because we're going to have to take a lot of land very early to make this work. One of the main reasons, too, why I'm thinking that I'm going to end up in green, black, and blue is that I'm going to need some time to set up or recover from bad draws. Green has fixing for mana, which is very important if we're going to be 5 colors. Black has removal spells and a bit of draw. And blue has draw spells. So all of those kind of add to the consistency of the deck. And that's where I think that we're going to, end up in those colors because of those kinds of things. I think that the Woodland Cemetery here is the pick. I could take something like Dragon Lord Ojutai, because it's just a really good multicolored spell, but I will need to pick up lands at some point, and there's nothing absurdly powerful. It is a card in the colors that we want, so I'll take the Woodland Cemetery. It's too bad that it's a tap land and not an actual dual land, but that's fine. Here there's Tropical Island, which seems very strong. Vraska's great, but Vraska should also wheel. I tend to think, wow, sorry about that. I tend to see Vraska wheel a lot more than I think I should. It's a pretty decent card. I've actually liked in this cube a lot of more mid-range strategies, which is something I wouldn't say normally happens, but in this cube they've slowly stripped away all of the signets and a lot of more powerful strategies. So it's not like ridiculously fast combos and stuff like you've seen in Vintage Cube. A lot of it comes down to really, really efficient creatures and just as efficient removal spells and who has bigger threats and better threats and can protect them better. And Vraska's a pretty good threat. It's just a nice card. Like it'll fit right into a like green-black rock style deck if you get like Recurring Nightmare, lots of creatures that have come into play abilities, stuff like that. Now we have Drowned Catacomb. We have a Glacial Fortress if I really want. Noxious Gearhulk is good, but I really want to solidify those lands. Like, I think that the number one thing that we're going to lose to is having a really bad mana base, and fixing our mana base so that we can just take whatever we want later on is probably the correct way to do things. So, the Drowned Catacomb seems like a good idea. Ooh, Impulse is good, because this will give us some consistency, being able to draw cards and just kind of dig for what we need. Other than that, Avenger Zendikar is fine. It's a good finisher. Fleetwheel Cruiser is not what we want, because it's just a very aggressive card. Not at all what we're interested in. Yeah, there's really nothing else here. I guess Cathartic Reunion is possible, but it's in a color that we're trying to splash. Like, it's a bit of card selection. So it kind of operates in a way like Impulse, but I mean, it's sorcery speed. It's better if you have a bunch of lands to discard, but there's a lot of situations where you might not. So I think Impulse is just a lot better for a ton of different reasons. But the only other card that's even worth considering, I think, is maybe the Cathartic. Griftwing Cloudskate can buy us some time. Time Warp is amazing with a lot of Planeswalkers. But if we already have, like, 2 or 3 Planeswalkers in play, I think that Time Warp is probably unnecessary at that point. Just gonna take a guess. I'm gonna grab the Riftwing Cloudskate here. Try and get some blue cards. Now we have Inquisition, Seagate. Seagate is a little bit more consistency again. Council's Judgment is awesome removal, so I could take that. Stirring Wildwood is I don't think that I want any of the creature lands because of the fact that they always come into play tapped. Like Woodland Cemetery and Drowned Catacomb aren't so bad because if you have something else, then you can already have it come into play untapped. Like if you have an island, this is just fine. It's a swamp. But I mean, this is just never what you need. Like it's such a bad card in a top deck situation. Kick the Seagate. And Isolated Chapel, so a little bit more fixing again. Song of the Dryads is just straight removal, which is really good. It's very similar to the Council of Judgment. I mean, it's not nearly as good. It's not at the level of Council's Judgment, obviously, because they can get it back, but it does kill basically anything. Underworld Connections is decent. Double Black's a little bit hard. I'm going to take the Song. Sarkhan is interesting, but double red Planeswalkers is not what I want. I'd really like to get something like Ajani Vengeance. Ajani Vengeance is a great Planeswalker. Jace Bellerin's nice. Definitely snap that off. And Dismiss? Actually, Far Away. I think that I'd rather have removal than leave up mana for counterspells. Just in general. I don't have any removal yet. This is a really expensive counterspell. I feel like our deck is going to be fairly expensive. We're going to be trying to land Planeswalkers, tapping out a fair bit. We're not going to be doing a lot of instant speed play, so I think Far Away is a little better. Legacy's Allure is actually pretty nice, but at this point, I might want the Lava Claw Reaches. I mean, this is double blue very early. We've got a pretty solid base in blue, but I'm going to want to shift away from that if we're actually going 5 colors. So I'm going to take the Lava Claw Reaches and be happy enough. Now there's a Lumbering Falls. And this is the problem of taking like a Lava Claw Reaches or a Lumbering Falls is that we can't play a whole lot of these lands. They always come into play tapped. And they don't activate things like the Drowned Catacomb. They can't be fetched. They're really bad in a lot of different ways. I mean, at least for a deck that's trying to do what we're doing. I don't think that they're actually bad in a normal deck, but if you have to do a lot of fixing, like if you're a 4 or 5 color deck, it's gonna be a tall order to play, like, even 2. 3 is really pushing it. Like, I don't think that it's really reasonable to play 3 of them unless you're playing extra lands, or you have a lot of other fixing or something. 3 tap lands is just really hard. And like I'm saying too, it doesn't help that then your Drowned Catacomb is going to come into play tapped more often because you're using this as a swamp, or because you're using this as an island. And that's just a really big downside. So it's not just that this comes into play tapped, it's that it also makes this come into play tapped. Now we have Snapcaster, Sifter, Gristlebrand, some powerful cards. Gristlebrand is awesome. There's the Temple of Mystery, another tap land. I think that these are a little bit better than the creature lands. I like them a little bit more. There are certain decks where if you're wiping the board, right, if you have Wrath of God style effects, then you're going to want these creature lands, but I like the temples for scrying. Explore could be okay. Explore definitely seems reasonable. I like the temple, though. Creeping Tar Pit, Scrubland. Scrubland is really good. There's a Gideon and a Scalding Tarn. Scalding Tarn would be nice. It fetches currently just the Tropical Island, so it might just be better to grab Scrubland. I guess that it's 3 colors of mana, though. Blue, red, and green. Gideon is interesting. Double white's kind of tough. I think that I like the Tarn. I need to start taking real cards soon, though. We only have 8 actual playables, and I'm not so sure that I want to play Kakusho. So, it's hard to pass things like Glenelendra. My instincts want me to just go straight into blue and just have a blue-black control deck, and that might be where we want to be. But we'll test this out. I want to see how much we can go with this. Alright, we've got a Lotus Cobra and Oblivion Ring. Oblivion Ring actually seems really good. More removal is nice. Flooded Strand would be fantastic. Fixing for the Oblivion Ring. Lotus Cobra's not terrible. Ancestral Vision's good. I'm going to take the Oblivion Ring, though. Some removal seems really powerful for what we're trying to do. Board wipes wouldn't be bad. I'd really love a Damnation because I'm looking a lot more black than white, too. Take the O-Ring. Misty Rainforest. Ulamog. Spell Pierce, I guess. Terminate's good. I think I like the Misty. There's nothing amazing in this pack, so it definitely seems like a Misty Rainforest kind of pick. I can take out these two right now, because our mana is looking better and better. We have a very medium Elspeth here. This card's not a great Planeswalker. The double white cost is pretty awful. And the abilities just aren't that good on this one. Like, Elspeth's Sun's Champion, absolutely I would take. The 6 mana Elspeth is so good. This one's just not that great. It's a very medium Planeswalker. Could take the Metamorph. Could take a Pulse. Might just have to be Tyrael, though. And maybe I'm just like blue, white, black, and splashing green and red. That's certainly an option. We don't have a lot of green yet. Take the Elspeth. We're seeing some white Planeswalkers, too. Maybe Gideon Wheels. That sounds insane, I know. But I actually had Gideon Wheel on me the other night on stream, so it's not impossible. Donnery Rad, unfortunately, is just a really bad Planeswalker to have in a deck like this. Because you're never going to have creatures. Like, what creatures do we have? We have 3 creatures. We're not going to be able to draw them off the top of our deck with this thing. Not going to do anything for us. So we need to find something different. Thassa does find us other cards, because it does Scry. Disfigure is okay, I suppose. I kind of like the Devoted Druid. There's nothing great here. It might just be Disfigure. I'm not sure 100% that I'm not still base green, so I'll take the Devoted. It might be able to ramp us to a different Planeswalker. Go for the Throat and Necrotol. Both of those are pretty solid. Deep Analysis is a good draw. I already have Impulse, Jace, and Seagate Oracle as draw spells. Not an amazing draw suite, that's for sure. We're like really, really weak to any kind of aggression right now, so I kind of like a Go for the Throat or the Necrotol. Guess we have the Far Away. Might be Deep Analysis. I'm going to need some draw. I have 0 4-drops either. Necrotol and Deep Analysis are interesting. I think that I leave the Go for the Throat. I want the 2 for 1. Take the Deep Analysis, though. Like drawing cards. Temple of Plenty. So another temple, replacing another one of our creature lands. I can probably play 2 temples. I can justify that. Sheldock Isle's good, but not really what we're looking for. Isochron Scepter is solid, but we don't have any instants to go with it. Yeah, it looks like a Temple of Plenty. Oblivion Stone wouldn't be bad either. We wouldn't mind wiping the board a few times, I'm sure. Catacomb Sifter buys us a lot of time, and it does dig deeper into our deck, so I might just want the Sifter. Gideon Wield. Alright, Gideon is getting in the deck then. Creeping Tar Pit's cool, and this is definitely the best of the creature lands, but with 2 temples, I'm going to try and shy away from these. I also have these that I can already put in, so I'm not really in the market for another tap land. Whereas Gideon seems nice. Ratchet Bomb, Drana, Temple of Abandon. If I have to Temple of Abandon, I really don't like Ratchet Bomb. The problem is that it just takes way too much time to actually get to anything that you need to kill. And by then your opponent just plays around it. So, like, you know, they're not going to play a bunch more 4-drops if you play a Ratchet Bomb and you get it to 3. But if they already have a bunch of 4-drops and you need to kill those, and you play Ratchet Bomb, it's going to take you 4 turns. So, like, if you play it before they play their 4s, then they're just not going to play those, and they're going to play a little bit differently to play around it. And if you do it the other way around, where you manage to get it out once they have a bunch of 4s, well, they're just, you know, you're going to take like 5 turns to get there. It's just not going to work out well for you. Gatekeeper of Malakir. Anguish Unmaking was a nice pickup, actually. We're definitely looking blue-white-black, which is not where I expected to be. Hero of Bladehold. Plateau is very good. Wish I had that Scrubland, now that we're playing a lot more white. Especially, do I have a fetch land for that? No, I have Misty and I have Scalding. I could get Plateau off of the Scalding Tarn, which is good. There's anything else here? Oracle Moldai is a powerful card, but not exactly what I'm looking for. Something like Incinerate or Slag Storm could be okay. Problem here is the double red. Incinerate's decent enough removal, I suppose. Seems like a plateau. And there's a Consecrated Sphinx. That card is fantastic. I'd love Ancient Tomb, but with 5 colors, it's gonna be a tough squeeze to get it in. I like Koth, and I need Planeswalkers. It's another one that should wheel, though, and Consecrated Sphinx is great for a slower, more controlling deck like this, so I think that I'm just going to take that. Doomblade's reasonable. But yeah, I like Consecrated Sphinx. Blood Crypt. Nicole Bolas. Oh, everybody is going to kill me if I don't wheel this Bolas. I'm going to take the Blood Crypt, though. It's fetchable through Scalding Tarn, and it's just kind of solid. It'll help us actually play Bolas when we wheel it. And I am very confident that we will actually wheel the Bolas. I think that's pretty likely. This deck is really awkward right now. Like, insanely awkward. It needs a lot more, like, ramp or draw or something. I think that one of the big downfalls of it right now is, like I said earlier, they removed all the signets from this cube, so there's no real, like, artifact mana fixing, and I think that's a big problem for us, because we need a bunch of signets. We need to ramp to cards like this, and at the same time have them playable in all of our colors. We can't have them as just like green cards entirely, because then we're not 5 color anyways. It just makes everything so much worse. So I think that's a lot of the problem. We also just haven't been seeing the ramp cards. Like, there's no Rampant Growths going around. There's no Cultivates or Kodama's Reaches. Like, there's Nissa here, but that doesn't fix mana. Banishing Light is good. I'll take the Garruk, just because that is the route we are supposed to be going, is taking Planeswalkers. We're kind of viewing this as a stipulation draft, where when I see a Planeswalker, I should do almost anything in my power to take it. I know I've passed a couple, but there's some necessary sacrifices to try and make the deck workable. Here, I think that this is one of them. Jace's Ticket to Thought is, I mean, it's not bad. Not at all. It's a solid enough card. But I already have a Jace, so a second one sometimes can be awkward. It's certainly not bad yet, but Merfolk Looter is just so necessary. Draws us a lot of cards, gets us to what we need. It's an early play, which we don't have a lot of. I really think that I like the Merfolk Looter here. So I'm just going to jab that and let everybody yell at me later. Murderous Cut and Thirst for Knowledge. Thirst for Knowledge, I thought at first when they added it, I was like, oh, that's a great addition to this cube. Like, another good draw spell's nice. And it's not bad, but, like, we have no artifacts. What artifacts can I throw away to Thirst for Knowledge? And that's not a necessary condition to playing the card, but it is part of it, and there's no artifacts anymore. All the signets are gone. It looks really weird to have a Thirst for Knowledge in the cube when there's just such a low level of artifacts. There's many, many decks that I've had have played 0 artifacts. Vast majority of them. I'm going to take the Murderous Cut here, actually. I just want another removal spell. We want to actually get to the late game. Phyrexian Arena, Shambling Vent. Oh, Oath of Nissa. Holy cow. I totally missed that. I want the Oath of Nissa. Yep. Fixes all of our mana for our Planeswalkers. Just kind of a decent card on its own, too. It's nice to be able to basically play Anticipate in green. Remove Soul would be nice otherwise. Like the Arena, too, but I just want some interaction with my opponent. Let's grab that. Nissa Vital Force. Yep, definitely looks like the card. And other than that, there's Rager, Mystic Snake. Take the Nissa. We're going to go really crazy with our mana base. We did take a lot of lands. I mean, to be fair, our mana base doesn't look super awful. The problem is that a lot of these aren't dual lands or fetch lands, so it's not as good as it looks, despite there being a ton of non-basic lands, even some in our sideboard. A lot of them are tap lands. Shadow Mage, Doomblade came back. Alright, Doomblade's fine. Nicole Bolas wheeled. Bam. See, you didn't have to yell at me, everybody. I told you it'd be fine. It's totally okay. And we'll just ignore Ajani. Ajani is not what this deck wants. Hymn to Turok. Huh. Card's very powerful. Almost impossible for us to play. I think that I just take Tragon Predator. Even though that's not great in our deck either. Nighthawk, sure. And it looks like we probably have a deck. I just need to cut a card. Maybe Kakusho. We want to try and keep as many Planeswalkers in the deck as possible. I'm really set. We missed out on a lot of really good Planeswalkers. We just never saw them. We didn't see the 4-mana Garrux. We didn't see Ajani, Ajani Vengeant. We didn't see... obviously Mind Sculptor would have been amazing. I'm thinking like the 4-drop slot for Planeswalkers is just kind of We didn't see either of the good Elspeths. We just saw the bad one. Gideon is nice, I suppose. We didn't see Karn or Ugin. Just kind of awkward. I think that this deck would be a lot better with some 4-drops. Like, if we could switch Elspeth Tyrael for Garruk Relentless, that would be fantastic for us. I'd love to have another Planeswalker that's kind of sort of removal. Even like Ral Zarek wouldn't have been that bad. Ral Zarek, Ajani, like any of those would have been nice because they can actually bolt creatures. That's a big deal. The ones that we have right now don't do a ton of protecting themselves. Gideon, Garruk, Nicole Bolas, kind of Liliana, but I'm a bit worried about that. So we need to go for the cuts. Looks like Devoted Druid, honestly. We're not heavy green. The card's just ramping us. It just seems like the weakest card. I'd love to ramp, but the problem is that I'm not going to... Because of how little green I have, I don't think that I'm going to reliably get it down early enough that it'll actually ramp at all. So it doesn't make any sense to have it in the deck. I was almost going to say, I don't think we have any red, but then I realized Big Daddy Bolus got a little bit right at the end. So I managed to hit the stipulation. Yay! Good for me. All right. Let's make a mana base out of this. I don't think there's anything better to put in. This deck is... it is a disaster buckle. We'll put it that way. And mana. How do we do mana for this deck? Let's take a look at what Magic Online thinks. It will not be correct. I'm just going to say that right now. Can't imagine that I keep it the same. I'd love it to prove me wrong, because this is an interesting deck to build. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 green sources. That is a lot of green sources for this deck. I do want Oath of Nissa down. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Maybe it's not that bad. Like, maybe I want to have 7. I need the double green for Nissa. I want Oath of Nissa fairly early so I can actually fix for the other Planeswalkers in case we run into trouble. Okay, so we've got 7. Mountains? I don't think I need any. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 mountains seems like a lot of mountains for this, so we can cut that. Not a problem. We have 2, 3... 2, 3, uh-oh. 4, 5? Oh, wait, Scalding Tarn also fetches it, so 6, because it fetches Blood Crypt. Right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. So you have 6 black sources. We've got a lot of double black to just have 6 black sources. Let's go to 7. So 7, 7, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 blue sources. Whew. Might have to go down to 1. I think like 8, 7 if we have to. 1, 2, 3, 3, 4. 4 white sources. Oof. Not awkward at all. Really just 4 white sources? 1, 2, 3, 4. This is the problem of not having those duels. And that's 40 cards. 4 white is not enough. I want to cut a forest to get another plains in, but I can't do that reliably without... Oh, actually, Temple of Abandon can probably leave. So that gives us 6 green, 5 white. Not awesome, but I don't know that I can get a better mana base than this. I can't take out any blue or black sources. Those are already pretty low. Red we had too much of, so this seems fine. Green we had a little too much of. It was on that edge. It was about the right amount, maybe a little too much for being 5 color. Yeah, alright. I will try this, and we'll see how it goes. This is a very awkward and interesting deck. Maybe it'll be insane. Who knows? I keep getting told by a couple people in particular that I should try drafting 5-color Planeswalkers because it's very fun and quite powerful. This deck does not look very powerful, but it certainly looks like it could be a lot of fun. So, and I would love to have the curve of Gideon into Consecrated Sphinx, into Garrick, into Nicol Bolas. Sure, why not? And I will see everybody for round 1. We'll try and take this all the way. Impulse now. I was hoping that they would actually use Negate on this. I mean, not going to be that dumb, but they're not like me. My opponent's smarter than that. I take Jace Beller in here. Big reason is that I can use it to bait out the Negate and then Anguish Unmaking, possibly.